Top 5 Nintendo Switch emulators for Android which are ranked according to their performance, games compatibility, low-end device support, features and gameplay experience. Let's get started. On the number 5 spot we have Yuzu Emulator Android, and due to the development of Yuzu Android being in early stages, it is deserving of the number 5 spot in our today's list as it lacks optimizations for now, but it has reliable developers, it gets regular updates and has great games compatibility compared to the other emulators on today's list. But due to bad performance, it just can't be the best emulator for now. Even on high-end devices, the performance which you get is literally unplayable on normal titles like Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu or so on. Yuzu can go in game with many games, but most of them just crash and have graphical issues or severe lack of performance. And let's not forget that low-end devices aren't even close to supported in this emulator. So for those of you guys who have low-end or mid-range devices, you can't even consider this emulator. Let's move on towards our number 4 spot, which is the Yuzu Emulator Early Access. It is better than the normal Yuzu emulator, but it's also paid. It costs about $6. It is better in terms of performance and games compatibility by a little bit compared to the normal Yuzu build. It has more playable games and also decent performance in games compared to that of normal Yuzu. For example, in Let's Go Pikachu on Yuzu Emulator Android, I was getting around 10 to 15 FPS, whereas on Yuzu Early Access build, I get around 20 FPS normally, but even 20 is just unplayable. If you consider downscaling the graphic resolution in this emulator, then few games may run little better. Like you are seeing right now, I am emulating Pokemon Sword and I am getting playable frame rate. But let's not forget that my device is flagship. It has Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 processor and still 30 FPS is not acceptable. You may also notice that there are severe graphical issues present in any game which you might try, except for small titles like Sonic Mania, Bastion, etc. They ran very well and hence it is deserving of the number 4 spot for today's video. On the number 3 spot of our today's list, we have Skyline Emulator Android, which is one of the best open source Nintendo Switch emulators for Android. It had active development until just few months ago when the project was completely stopped, and that was due to some good reasons, but it's still my favorite Switch emulator, and as of filming this video, it offers good compatibility of games. Top games like Resident Evil, Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild are playable. It has amazing performance on both low-end and high-end Android devices, way better than Yuzu Android, and it also offers basic support for MediaTek processor Android devices, which is not really optimized for emulation. On low-end Android devices with Snapdragon processor, Skyline works just as well as Yuzu is working right now on my flagship device. So playable FPS you can expect from Skyline, but it lacks quality textures. Even though it has very quick game opening speeds, it is incompatible with newer titles and some big games, hence I believe it is deserving of the number 3 spot in our today's list. Let's move on to the number 2 spot, which is the controversial Against Emulator, the first ever working Nintendo Switch emulator for Android, but requires a gamepad or VIP subscription if you want to play it, and it is shady all around, completely closed source with stolen codes, and even with such bad reputation, it still has a great compatibility of games where it can literally run 90% of the games stored in my device, which none of the other emulators can do. It even gets regular updates and provides decent performance on high-end devices, but has bad compatibility with low-end devices, especially on Android devices which have Mali GPU. On Snapdragon processors, if you use custom drivers, this emulator will run just as good as Yuzu runs on my flagship device. Though it can run lot of games just like any other Switch emulator, it has crashing issues, it has graphical glitches in games like Tears of the Kingdom, like you can see right here, but for now, it's still better than Yuzu emulator due to it giving decent gameplay experience overall, and the fact that it can run many games like Demon Slayer, FIFA 2023, Jump Force, Tears of the Kingdom, Mortal Kombat and many others. But in all honesty, I don't really recommend you guys to use this emulator as it is filled with ads. I hope that Yuzu emulator surpasses Against pretty soon. And on the number 1 spot, I have ranked Skyline Purple Edition, which is the unofficial forked version of normal Skyline and Strato emulator. It even has the incomplete Textman code along with the newest unreleased features of Strato emulator like multiple search locations, RAM information, little better compatibility than normal Skyline, but just as good performance and low-end device support. Skyline Purple also has some additional settings like being able to set executor slot count scale all the way up to 12 and the extra early features which will be releasing soon in the Strato emulator source code. Skyline Purple is also open source, but this is temporarily on the number 1 spot, as in future Strato Emulator will surely replace it. So let me know in the comment section down below which is your personal favorite Switch emulator for Android, and be sure to leave a like. Along with that, subscribe if you want to watch similar videos on my channel related to emulation. With that being said, see you guys next time. Goodbye.